God, I'm like a professional YouTuber. Good Lord. You think I'd figure this out by now? What's up? Just wanted to post an update because it's been a minute. I forget when the last time I uploaded is. I think it was August, maybe September. I'm not sure. Since then I've gotten my hair cut and it's really cute and it's really trendy, but it's short. And so when I put it in a ponytail, some of it falls out and that kind of sucks, but it's okay because, I usually have a headband on, like for CrossFit, so it's fine. So anyway, welcome back to my channel. So a couple things. Let me give you an update on my hand, and then we'll talk about where I'm at in my quest for building muscle mass / recompositioning of my body. What is that? How do I say that? Whatever. Anyway, so out of the splint. I don't remember if I was out of the splint from my fracture the last time I loaded. I don't know. It's okay though. So as a recap, for those of you who are new here, in July, I was cleaning at the gym in CrossFit, not cleaning, but Olympic lifting, and I caught my 135-pound clean incorrectly, and I fractured a little tiny bit my 5th metacarpal. Since then, I've been in a splint. I've had follow-up x-rays. The fracture looks fine. Looks like it's healed. Everything's good. And then I ended up having an MRI done in October. Because I was still having pain right when I flexed back like this, right? And I am really stiff this morning. Like normally I have a little bit more flexibility in my wrist, but yesterday we clean and jerked in the gym, and burpees, so a lot of this motion, either up or down. So I'm a little bit stiff from that. And I've been cleaning this morning, actual cleaning, this kind of cleaning. So I'm still having pain, whatever. Mostly isolated, I would say, in this right here, this spot of my hand. Like I just, kind of in between my thumb and my finger. Or if I just were to draw a line, it's kind of like on the back side of my hand. It's not my wrist. It's not down here. It's up in this part. So right here is like the scaphoid, and then the lunate is kind of in this area. So it's right in that general area. So I had an MRI done, found out a couple things. So I have a couple things going on. And I didn't want to make a super long video, but most of my videos are pretty long anyway. So I'm going to try to get through this as quickly as I can and then get to the dirty details. So let me preface this with, I've had surgery on this hand before. You see this little white line right here? That's a scar from a surgery I had about 20 years ago on my lunate, right? Which is important for later. So put that in your back pocket. I had a bone graft done. They took bone from my ulnar bone and they stuck it in my lunate because I had a bone cyst that had burst through, and I was having unexplained wrist pain, hand pain and stuff. And they found that on a CAT scan, and they were like, yeah, there's a big hole there. We should probably fix that. And so I was like in my early 20s when I had that done. And I'm now in almost my mid-40s. I'm almost 45. I'll be 45 in like a month, in 5 weeks or so. So it's been more than 20 years. I think I was probably like 21 when that happened. So almost closer to 25 years. So I had the MRI. That was really fun, easy process. I've had a million of them, right? I'm a pro when it comes to MRIs. Got the results like a week later, and I have, like I said, a few things going on. So I've been working with a hand specialist, and we had a telehealth visit. Not that detail is important. I'm not sure why I told you that. Anyway, we went through the pictures. And so because I've had surgery in that area before, it's, kind of I don't know. It's an interesting presentation, right? When they start to image it or look at MRIs or CAT scans or what have you, right? So, So what we found, right, are I have tendinosis, which is effectively, inflammation of the tendon, but not like tendonitis, which can be treated and goes away. Once you have tendinosis, it's there. It never goes away. I've had that before in this shoulder. So last November, I had this shoulder scoped. I had a small tear in the back side of my infraspinatus insert, right on the back part of my shoulder. You just stitch that up a little bit, but then I had all of my tendons in my shoulder like scraped, like to scrape the tendinosis off. Tendinosis is caused by chronic overuse. Don't know what that's from. CrossFit. It's fine though. It's not that it's a CrossFit issue. It's just that it is a me issue because I love training. I love weightlifting. I go all in with it all the time. I beat the hell out of my body, right? And so anytime that you participate in anything, right, like this, whether it's Olympic lifting or just bodybuilding or CrossFitting or, HIIT classes or F45s or DECA comps or high rocks or, Orange Theory, like if you do it all the time, right, eventually, right, like you do stand the chance, you run the risk, right, of developing like a tendinosis from chronic overuse. And so what that leads to though is down the road, it leads to effectively like an arthritis, right, is what happens. And so once you have it, it never goes away. It stays, it's there, right? So eventually it will progress, right? And it is painful. It's very pinchy. So like it's very sharp. So if I have my hand like in a certain, when my, tendons are being engaged and, whatever, it's a sharp, like pinchy feeling. When I'm sitting here, most days it's fine. Like my hand is not sore or anything like that. It's when I'm actively doing something. And so I have that going on. I also have some fluid that has built up around some of the tendons and stuff. And I forget what they call that. But that's just from inflammation, potentially could just go away on its own. And that's probably causing a little bit of the stiffness that I feel, plus like the tendinosis, like the fatigue feeling, right? That you have. So that, and then we get to, this spot right here. And again, remember, this is the scar. This goes down behind my watch. This goes down to about here. You can kind of see it's about that long from my original bone graft surgery that I had 20 some odd years ago. So there is a ligament that runs across the back of your hand right here. And I think it's called the scaphoidulate ligament. I forget what it is. Anyway, someone will correct me. So that ligament on the MRI lights up like a Christmas tree. And so that's an interesting point that we'll talk about in a second. Another spot in my hand that lights up and lighting up the white on an MRI, like when something shows up as white, it generally means, right, that there's something abnormal about that spot. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's anything wrong or there's an injury or whatever, but there's something that when the magnet shoots through you, right, the resistance, right, that it gets is not there, right? And that's like the white, right? Which in most cases, when you have like an ACL tear, MCL tear, it shows up as white because that shit is torn and the ligament's torn, right? So it goes right through it, right? So that's kind of like what's happening as I understand it. And like most images on MRIs are either like black or they are gray, and then when you get white is when that's like draws your attention to that specific point. And it's like, oh yeah, and like something's not right here, And so anyway, that ligament right there that runs across back here is bright white on the image, right? And then also my lunate is lighting up as well, which is where I had the bone graft surgery. So let's talk about the ligament first. So the radiologist marked that as there is no full thickness tear in the ligament. But when the hand specialist looks at the images, he's like, I don't understand that, there's no full thickness tear, but clearly something's not right because when I click through the pictures, the ligament actually disappears at one point in the photos, right? It's gone. It's like, and so you're like, so what is that? So it could be, right, that there is a tear there, and MRIs, understand, are not 100%. And so they do miss things, right? And oftentimes, like, they will go into surgery with a general idea of what is wrong, and then they find something else, or it doesn't look as bad as they thought based on the imaging, so all of that, it's kind of like, it's just giving them an idea of what might be there versus there being an absolute. So he's like, either way, there's some kind of degeneration of that ligament right there across the back of my hand. Now, whether or not that's from what happened to me in July, likely so, or is it something that has been there, right, for a long time based on my previous surgical history? We don't know. We don't know. It's a little chicken and the egg. It's a little cart and a horse and skis and out ahead of them or behind them or whatever. We just don't know. And so, but when they look at the lunate, there are 2 spots on that bone in my hand that are lighting up, as something is not correct with this. So there's one spot opposite of the spot that I had my bone graft on that is showing white. There's like a gap there, a space in the bone. No clue what that is. We think it could be a cyst. There might be a bone cyst there. We don't know. Like, could be anything. And then the spot that I had the bone graft in. So normally when you have a bone graft, right, they stick the bone in there and then they immobilize the area, right? And so the bone graft heals, right? So it heals into like the spot that they are fixing effectively. That's an oversimplification. However, when they look at mine, there is a clear line, like kind of looks like a half moon shape, like a hole, right? Where they scooped out like anything that was remaining of the cyst that had burst, stuck the bone graft in. There's a space there. And so it's one of 2 things. Either my bone graft that I had 20 some odd years ago did not heal correctly. And so it didn't like really anchor itself into that bone, which I would be surprised about because I wasn't lifting weights at that time in my life. And I was in college and I had a cast on my hand. And I had a cast on my hand for like 6 or 8 weeks. Like, it was pretty long. And so it's 6 weeks, right, to heal. Like, so I don't know. Or it is entirely possible that when I missed that lift, based on where I like caught the bar, where the bar was right here. So if you think about it being like this, right? And if you flip my hand over, where does that kind of line up with? Right here, which is the lunate, right? And you can see, if I turn my hand this way, again, you can see the scar, right, in this general region, right, of where that bone is and where the bar would have been when I like crunched my hand, this is where, if you draw a line, this is about where my fracture was. So you can see where we're going with that. So it's possible that injury, right, also like dislodged, right, the bone graft, right, and I mean, at this point, I feel like anything is possible. So that's where we are. So I've been referred to a hand surgeon. Unfortunately, and I shouldn't say unfortunately, I'm fortunate that we have a really good hand specialist and surgeons in my area. He is scheduling out until the end of the year. So I will not be able to see him until the end of December unless they happen to have a cancellation in between now and then. Otherwise, this is a 2025 problem. And our goal is I just want to get back to 100%. I'm having trouble with my grip. I have trouble with some fine motor movements, right? Like if I have to like pull on something like this is painful, right? It just is like, if I have to open something. So like if I have my hand here and I'm trying to rip something across or rip, like this, like a bag, if you think about like opening a bag or like this way, I do struggle a little bit. And then I do have issues with, and the bigger around it is, the harder of a time I have, like holding on to it, depending on how heavy it is. If it's just light like this is like, I don't know, half full, this is not a problem. But if you were to stick like a frying pan in my hand or something, like I would be like, okay, this is really painful when I try to hold on to this, right? And if I squeeze like my hand like this, I have a lot of pain right here, right? So again, we're in that same general area of where that ligament is, which may or may not be completely gone and or degenerating, or there could be something wrong with my bone graft site. So all of my images have been sent to that surgeon. I'm hopeful that he looks at them ahead of time and can maybe give me some ideas about how to proceed. Because there's a couple things. One, I've had surgery on that hand before. We don't necessarily want to interject more scar tissue into that same location because that's exactly what would happen. I am only 44 years old. I am not ready to retire from CrossFit. So I would like to get back to it. The hand specialist said, like, there's no like cortisone's not going to help. Steroid injections are not going to help. None of that's going to help. So then it's, okay, is there a surgical option that could help me get back to 100%? Because I am having trouble, like clearly in the gym with things. Especially gymnastics, anything that's grippy, hand related, being upside down, right? Because this is painful, right? Like pushing back. So if I'm loading my hand, especially right here in that middle spot, it lights me up back here, right? That's painful. And so we're just working through that right now. So that's what's going on. All right. Let's talk about other things. Okay, so as a recap, I started out this journey last year in February of 2023. You love how I have like my hair, my bangs like tucked in up here because they fell out of my ponytail. At 226.2 pounds and 48.7% body fat with a muscle mass of 110.2 pounds. So that's important. So keep your mind on the 110.2. In August of this year, when I was like, you know what, I've been at about the same weight for a couple of months, like, let's just maybe take a little bit of a break, see what happens, start to talk about recomposition, getting some strength back. Because one of the things as a result of being at a deficit for that long, like I have lost, not a ton, but like, it's important to me to be strong, especially in my big lifts, like my power lifts. So like my back squat, my front squat, my deadlift, like those are really critical. And those also then translate into other things in CrossFit. And so I've lost some strength there, which is to be expected. And it's not crazy, but it does bother me, and that's my ego more than anything. So in August, when I started, taking a break, right, from I don't know, my Siberian is meowing right now. Siberian cats don't really meow, they chirp. And I don't know if you can hear him they should be noise canceling enough that you do not hear him, but he's being very loud in the kitchen and it echoes. I was 168. So on August 16th, I was 168.8 pounds and I had 37.2% body fat. In October, I was 168.4. So not a big weight change there, but my body fat was at 35.6. So it had come down that almost 2%, or so. And then yesterday I had a check-in and my body weight is the same. My body fat is the same. And you can, grain of salt with some of that impedance stuff, like maybe not. However, my muscle mass in October was 100 pounds, but yesterday it came in at 103. So in like that 2-month time frame, I've put on some muscle, which is nice. My body fat's very stable, which is nice. It's still high, like I'm still chunky, but yeah, so we're trending in the right direction. And I did talk to my nutrition coach yesterday about this. I work with CBG, Consistency Breeds Growth. I'll link them down below if you would like to check them out. If you just tell them I sent you, if you want to do that. Hi, Gatsby. And so, really great, especially if you're an athlete, especially if you do not want to count macros. Like, I counted macros for years. It ruined my life. So still working with Coach Paige there. Talked to her a little bit yesterday about like, I am really bothered right now about not being able to put up like some big numbers, in terms of my, front squat, back squat, deadlift, would really like to work on strength. And so we are going to try to figure out the plan of like, can I still get that recomposition going a little bit and then also still get strong? And those things I know are competing priorities sometimes. However, like you can do both, like that is possible, right? And so that's what we're going to start working on. So that is my update. That's all I got. Anyway, I hope you're all doing great. It's almost Thanksgiving. If you're in the United States, love some Thanksgiving. I will be home for that here, chilling, watching football all day. And then I will go home to see my mom up north at Christmas time. So we're going to do that. And then hand surgeon at the end of the month. And hopefully we get some answers and a plan for next year and all of that. It's good times. All right. You guys take it easy. I'll see you next time. Bye.